So trunk stiffness. I feel like my upper body is very stiff when I walk. I don't know how to loosen it up so that I get that natural trunk and upper body movement. Now, this is a great question. First, it's important to identify what's causing it. So, in some cases, it's just because you're nervous. So, you just can't relax enough and be natural when you're walking. And so your body stiffens up. And I would say in that case, I would switch to something like hiking sticks because you might be able to relax more because you feel more secure and you can kind of get more of a reciprocal arm movement, and that'll help to get that arm swing or that trunk rotation. Now, before I go on to some of the other causes, it's important to keep in mind that trunk rotation is not something we ever thought about. So it's important to kind of lay that foundation that trunk rotation is really it's a natural motion to keep our body in balance. So our hips naturally rotate when we walk, so when we advance our legs. So in order for us to continue to walk in a straight path, just to keep our it's kind of like a counter rotation occurs at our upper body. So when our lower body rotates one way, our upper body rotates in the opposite direction to kind of counteract that motion. So that's really important, is that it's just a natural phenomena that occurs that we never really taught ourselves. So having to think about it and trying to do it, in my experience, is sometimes what causes people not to be able to do it. So you're trying to visualize it and you're trying to rotate your shoulders, and then just somehow they kind of start rotating in the same direction as your hips, and then that throws you off. And so sometimes, again, thinking about it is what actually kind of makes you look more like a robot. So that's number one. If it's because you can't do it because your body is just stiff because you've been sitting and in a wheelchair for too long, then you would want to stretch. Lay down and stretch. People do not stretch enough, in my opinion. So that would be the next thing. If you feel like you don't have the control. So if you're sitting and you just try and rotate like this in sitting and you feel like you can't do it, well, then that's weakness. And so then you would want to work on movement control. My favorite exercise for that is laying down, legs on a gym ball. Why do we start laying down? Because that will address any fear that you might have when you're standing up, if that is contributing to it, but you're also going to get that motion. If you can do that really well, the next exercise that I like is standing on a twister disc. So if you guys follow on YouTube, you will see that I've done videos where I'm standing on kind of like a frictionless disc. That would be the next progression to get that trunk rotation. If you can do it laying down and then you can't do it standing, then you know it is probably more a fear factor, that when you stand up or when you walk, your body is tensing up. If that's the case, that's when you would want to use the gait poles, use the walking sticks, because it probably means you just need something to make you feel a little bit more confident when you're walking. Walking sticks are lightweight, and if you have two hands that can grip, they will kind of help you to get that rotation, counter rotation that I talked about a little bit earlier, which will give you that intuitive sensation of what it feels like. Now, when we go through all that, after we get through all that, if you do all that, then you try and walk and you think, okay, I've mastered all these. I'm not stiff. I've stretched. I've done the movement retraining. And then you try and go up and walk. That's when you have to really remember that it's intuitive. And that's where I really see that trunk rotation disappear. So the people that come see me, in most cases, they're frustrated because they feel like they've done all the stuff to loosen up. They feel like they've done all the movement or training. They've used the twister disc. They've done all my videos on YouTube. And yet when they walk, they feel like they just can't do it. Or if someone videos them walking, they feel like they look like a robot. And I would say in that case, if you get to that point, I cannot stress it enough. It is probably because you are trying to get your trunk to rotate. If you've done all of that stuff, twister disc, laying on the gym, legs on the gym ball, moving your lower body side to side, you've done all the stretching, you can do it in sitting, then I would say the biggest thing you could focus on to get trunk rotation when you walk is not think about it so much, because it really is, it's just a matter of physics. It's not something we think about. It is just the way that our body reacts to the movement of our hips. And then I did put environmental stimuli on here because that is where I have noticed when I really dig deep and I really try and pull out of patients, where do you feel this the most, or where are you the most self-conscious of this? It's usually when they're in crowds. And yes, having more distractions is going to put your body in like a heightened state of stress, and you might not be able to be as relaxed in those situations. And if that is the case, I would try and recreate that at home. So turn the TV on, turn the radio on, maybe do it when you have a lot of family in the house, and try and do some of the exercises that I just went through where you're working on that trunk rotation in standing, trying to recreate some of that stimuli that's going on around you. The other reason I put environmental stimuli down here, why I think it's so important, is because sometimes, just something to be aware of, not all the time, and not everyone falls into this category, but sometimes it's just that you become more self-conscious about it because people are watching you. And I would just be aware of that. Don't worry about it. Most people that are the most self-conscious about it that I see have such minimal deficits that if I saw them in a crowd, I wouldn't even be looking twice. I wouldn't even notice it. So sometimes we're more aware of it, or, you might be more aware of it and might be more self-conscious about it than it actually is. And so pay attention to that. And if that's the case, try and not think about it as much and just try and stay relaxed and not worry about what other people think, and just see if maybe that has some impact on it where you feel like you're walking a little bit more naturally. If you liked that video and you want to learn more exercises on how to improve your walking, definitely check out this video over here or that video over there. If you want even more help, check out our Gold membership program where you'll get access to over 300 exercises that are not here on YouTube, as well as access to our monthly lives where you can get your questions answered.